Alright, you guys, first things first, when you're doing a skull, of course we've got to contour those cheekbones. So I am going to be doing kind of a regular contour and then doing this little upside down dip right here. That's just going to give me really sculpted cheeks and kind of give me that skull vibe. So I'm actually just using a Fenty matchstick in the color Mocha on this brush, and I am just using the brush to kind of sketch out my shape. This part of the look right here is definitely the most important, so do take your time. This took me quite a while, and it also took quite a bit of time making sure that the other cheek matched. So don't stress about it. This will probably take you longer than any other part of this look, but that is a-okay. So I'm just taking that contour underneath my chin as well, and then I'm also going to be creating some shadows on my forehead right here. For my eyes, I'm going to be using the original Jaclyn Hill X Morphe palette, and I'm just taking a light brown shade on this fluffy brush, and we are going to start to define those eyes. So I'm just working this color into the crease and then slowly working my way into some darker shades to deepen things up. I was going for kind of a grungy glam skull, so no need to be super particular about where the shadows are going. I did bring the contour and the shadow down the bridge of my nose just a bit to give some different depth to the look. And then on a smaller brush, I am taking this dark brown shadow and really starting to define that outer third of my eye. Of course, you got to make sure you're blended and nice and smoky and blown out. We don't want any harsh lines at all, because this look is all about shade and shadow. For the eyes, you can really do whatever you want. I wanted this to be super like grungy and dark looking, so that's kind of what I went for. As you'll notice, I also took the shadow really close up to my eyebrow. I wanted to kind of give that effect of like sunken in eyes or like an eye socket, so don't be afraid to take the shadow up higher than you normally would and also really smoke out the lower lash line as well. Alright, if you've got any fallout, knock that stuff off, and we are going to work on deepening up that shadow right here. So this particular part in the skull, there is a lot of shadow. If you need to look at a reference photo, a lot of times that's what I do. I'll just Google a skull and you can kind of see the realistic shadows that you would need to create. So I'm just trying to replicate that with a smaller brush and a dark brown shadow. That did take a lot of time to blend, just FYI. So I also wanted to give this a little glam. You know me, I just had to add a little bit of sparkle. So here we are with kind of a goldish lid color, and with my finger I am just applying that right to the inner third of my eyelid. So I wanted to define my lash line, but I didn't want to use like a full-on eyeliner. I just felt like that would be too harsh, so I used a little bit of black shadow, and then in my waterline I am just using a black eyeliner crayon. I'm also going to be tightlining my eyes just to give it some extra smoke and drama. Then we're going to hit the lashes with a little mascara. Even though we're doing a grungy skull, you know I had to do some false lashes, so I am using these really thick and full falsies. Again, I'll have a product list down below, and if you need a tutorial on how to put those on, I will have that link down below as well. We're moving right along, and we are going to be tracing on the skull nose. Right now, I'm just using a little bit of black body paint on a tiny little brush, kind of like a concealer brush. And for the thick part where I'm filling in, I'm just using the flat part of the brush, and for the tiny little details, I'm just flipping it on its side and using the point to kind of drag that skull nose upwards. So I'm sure you all have seen a skull nose before, but if you need a reference photo, just Google one, and yeah, you'll pretty much see exactly what you need to see for a skull nose. Next order of business is the teeth. So we are going to be creating those with a white body paint, and actually that same little brush, I just cleaned it off and put a different color on. So this is the Mehron Paradise paints. That's pretty much all I use for body paint. It is my favorite medium. It's very easy to use since it's water-based, and it comes off very easily as well. So yeah, as I am creating these, I'll just kind of tell you what I'm doing. I am using the concealer brush top to kind of make the shape of the teeth, and then slowly dragging that colored upwards to give it a more faded effect, almost kind of like where the root of the tooth is, kind of, or where it connects to the skull. So you can make the skull mouth as big or as short as you want it to be. I just took mine out to that contour, so I'm just repeating the same process on the top and bottom lip. After the teeth are painted on, we're going to work on some of the shadows. So I'm running a shadow right in between all of the teeth, like where my mouth would kind of split back. And then I'm also going to be adding just a little bit of brown shadow in between each tooth. This brings so much depth to the look, and definitely a step that you don't want to skip out on. So I am just taking a small little detail brush with a dark brown shadow and running that in between each tooth. I'm also applying a little bit of shadow onto the teeth, just because we're doing kind of a grungy skull. We don't really want the teeth to be like a stark white. So it's okay if they're looking a little grungy and dirty. Since I chose to use the black for my nose, I kind of felt like the contour wasn't quite dark enough. So if you're wanting to go for like a brown skull, I would maybe use a brown for the nose as well. So since I didn't, I decided to darken it up with a little bit of black shadow. I'm actually just using that same brush that I used the cream product on earlier. I didn't even clean it off and it worked pretty good. So just saying, I'm a little bit of a hot mess, and that's okay. But it worked out for me all right. Again, just really focusing in on that detail and trying to make sure that both sides are even. I just feel like that's something that you really want to make sure you take your time on. Otherwise it could look super wonky if you're looking at someone like straight on and your cheekbones have like a totally different structure. So again, just working some black shadow in. This did take some time, lots and lots of blending, but the end result is absolutely worth it. Moving on to the forehead, we need some detail up here. So I'm using a small little detail brush and some black shadow, and I'm just dragging a line straight up, and then I'm going to kind of shade it into a triangle almost. I just felt like the forehead needed a little bit more dimension. It was just kind of not doing it for me. So I wanted to really intensify the brow area and bring a lot of attention to my eyes and the brows. So I'm kind of shading this in the same way that I did the cheekbones. Although I started out with the black shadow, I'm really going in with the browns, and then I will intensify it with some more black shadow here in a minute. And now we are moving on to some cracks. These are optional. I just thought it added a lot to the skull. So with a little felt tip liner, I'm just adding some cracks into the skull on the chin. I think I did some on my temples and the forehead as well. Kind of just drag it in like weird little like veiny lines almost. I just really love what this did for the look. Going back over these with a little bit of shadow is really going to bring this to life. It's going to make them not just look like they're sitting on top of your skin, but that it's like actually a part of the skull. So again, just kind of placing these in random spots on my face. Definitely don't overdo it because you don't want this to like overshadow the entire look. But for a fun little detail, I felt like this was definitely a good choice. Once you're finished up with the little cracks and adding the shadow, you are done. And that is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed my little grungy glam skull. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.